What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction as Luca departs the lap for the chair, and we're going to listen to Skankin Pickle for the first time on the channel. Now, I'd like to start by giving a big shout out to Ryan, great friend of the channel. Indeed, he was following my old channel right at the moment when I had to come over and make a new one. I think he was actually the very first subscriber here. So yes, ultimately, he is a big fan of punk rock and ska music. Recently, I did a video reaction to a track by Call Me Malcolm, and I will probably react to some more by them. But I also wanted to not only return to doing some punk and ska reactions more regularly, shout out to Paulie and all the other folks who followed the punk reactions from the early days, and someone who actually recently commented on a video and said, please, I think it was actually that Call Me Malcolm reaction, saying, please, more ska reactions. And yes, one of the ska bands I listened to back in the day is a group that is no longer around, but which is pretty famous and legendary in ska circles, that is Skankin Pickle. Unfortunately, the lead female singer of the group eventually passed away. I think it was like mid-2000s. Ultimately, the group had already broken up by that point, I believe. But one of their more famous albums, not Ska-Funk Rasta-Punk, which I also have somewhere in my collection, but is the Green Album from 1996. I don't actually have the case anymore or the disc. I ripped it to my music computer, thankfully, long ago. And I think it is absolutely my favorite record by Skankin Pickle. And one of my favorite tunes on it is a track called Make a Change. Now there's others I like a great deal, maybe just as much. Ties That Bind immediately comes to my mind. Gas in My Car, which is the opening track on the record. So we'll go through a number of tracks on this record in the coming weeks. But one of the ones I felt like would be good to start with is Make a Change. And it's a song that is both about making change out in the world, but also in relation to that, being introspective and trying to understand yourself and to be truthful about yourself. And in that regard, the chorus is about making a change out in the world, doing more, making more of an impact in the world, which a punk ethos, and a lot of punk bands specifically, are about trying to affect social change and to bring about a more equitable cultural and world set of conditions, not the sort of more oppressive and narrowly benefiting way that things have been done for decades and centuries. But it's also in the verses about how sometimes you give $10 to a cause and I feel good, like isn't everyone impressed by the way that I just donated to this good cause? And then secretly knowing that you're a bit selfish and you'd like to, I don't want to think about the world being a bad place because, I like to think that everything's honky-dory and just great, and to think about problems that other people face that maybe you don't is a more difficult road to travel, and doing more than just kind of throwing a little bit of money at something requires more effort and more, again, personal honesty about how much you might be able to affect and improve lives of other people. So I like the way the song is about making a change and being able to do it, to get wars to stop being fought, because it talks about in the chorus about how, I'm aware that people are fighting wars and people are dying out there, and I'm just sort of throwing a little bit of money at something. Is that selfish? Well, I want to make a change. I'm going to have to do more. So it's both introspective and outward looking, which I very much enjoy, and of course it just has a real skankin' ska vibe to the sonics, so let's give it a listen. I do want to mention, I think Lynette, was it Lynette or Lizette? I think it might be Lynette. She was the lead singer who, again, unfortunately passed away, and she was sort of celebrated in LGBTQ circles because she was like openly a lesbian and was, part of a community that is perhaps even in punk rock lesser appreciated in terms of the impact that some bands with people who are in that community have made. But ultimately, Mike, what was it? He had one of those, sort of nicknames where it's like Mike something something Park, but he eventually ran Asian Man Records, which, Alkaline Trio, I think Less Than Jake, a number of bands that went on to be very popular in the punk ska world got their start on his record label, and he is the saxophonist, or was the saxophonist in, and I think also does vocals, in the band Skankin Pickle. So shout out to Mike Park. Let's give it a listen. This is Skankin Pickle from the Green Album 1996, and it's Make a Change. simple, fantastic. Again, I'm a big fan of ska music, different types of ska, certainly as I've talked about in I think the Call Me Malcolm video reaction. I like ska from the original phase in Jamaica, I like the second wave, the two-tone ska of the UK, the early 80s, Madness, Specials, and so on. But I'm especially sympathetic toward the more punk ska, or indeed skunk as sometimes it was called, punk rock infused ska of the 90s, like the third wave of ska, which, you know, Operation Ivy was sort of at the vanguard of that, and then as it moved into the 90s proper, it became a more popular, even played on the radios type of music. But again, I love ska music, including that 90s third wave ska, of which, of course, Skankin Pickle was a part. And yeah, ultimately, we get some horns in this, we get that, you know, sort of quick-paced rhythmic guitar, which of course I view as an essential characteristic of the ska sound. And as I said, I like the themes and vocals. I particularly like the sound of the chorus in this one, the way it goes into double-time rhythm and the vocals get a bit more passionately emotional, which fits with the themes that they're describing, and the guitars get a bit heavier in the chorus. So I like the skankin' feel of the verses, but I do also like the more punk-sounding chorus in particular on this one. I think I'll react to Ties That Bind next, and then maybe jump back to Gas in My Car. So as I said, I'm excited to go through this album. Shout out to Ryan and all the folks who followed the punk and or ska reactions. But yes, ultimately, I was reminded that, you know, the early days of this channel, there was a lot of punk and ska reactions, of course a lot of techno and some other things, but yes, I do want to get back to a slightly more regular schedule of punk and ska music. Once again, shout out to Paulie, who has donated a lot of punk music, a lot of which I've gone through, but ultimately some other installments in the Strung Out journey that I still have to go through, also the remainder of a second Social Distortion record. So again, shout out to the whole punk family, if you will, on the channel, Ryan in particular, for spurring me to react to some more ska, which sounds good to me. Let me know what you think of this. I will see you next time. Peace.